My name is Stacy alongside Angelica. We're with the Ring of Democracy, a nonprofit, non-political organization with the intent to democratize the electoral process so our community members can get to know you and Angelica.
Yes, so today we're excited to have you, KC Schuft, running for the role as District 6 City Council member. I want to jump right in and ask you, what motivates you to run for office? What's your vision for District 6 in Sacramento?
That's a great question. Hello, everyone. I'm KC Schuft, and I live in Colonial Heights. I've been in this neighborhood for 20 years, and in the last redistricting, we were left out in the cold without a council member, and we felt the effects of that with crime and lack of city responses to our neighborhood. I walk my dogs every day through my neighborhood, and I know most of my neighbors. And I realized in talking with everyone just how frustrated everyone was, calling 311, calling 911, all the 11s, and just getting nowhere with the crime that was happening. We had a couple. So my neighborhood is right off Stockton Boulevard, so right on the edge of what would be and what will be District 6. But in the last redistricting, we our little square was left out. So we have District 6 to the east, and then we have District 5 to the west. And when I realized how frustrated my neighbors were with just getting no response whatsoever, I decided to create a coalition in my neighborhood to basically address the issues that were happening. And we would have meetings every other week, and we would invite all the city officials and departments that we could think of. And at first we were just screaming at people to help us. Whether it was the police department, we've had Department of Community Response attend our meetings. We have neighbors who have really suffered some horrors living just a house away from what we call a drive-through drug den at the corner of San Francisco and Stockton. Cars literally pull up, the drug dealers, and it's not a homeless camp. It's a business enterprise that we've received no help from with regard to getting them removed from that area. And so cars drive up like it's a fast food joint. The dealers come to their window and off they go. And so we were, just trying to get anyone to help us, anyone to listen to us. We had everyone up to Stephanie Wen's office attend just to understand what is going on in Sacramento. We had the Parks Department and everything we've learned as a result of our involvement with the coalition and talking to everyone in Sacramento government. I realized just how broken Sacramento is on multiple levels. And I decided I wanted to be a part of the change. I wanted to be a part of the solution. I'm a results person. I like action, and most people like action. They want to see results. And so here I am running for city council.
All right. Thank you for that, Casey. Now, my question, it's a little bit about your background. From what we gather, you have a background in real estate, right? And one of the issues that we know is very prevalent in the Sacramento community right now is housing. And there's such a housing affordability issue going on right now. I know that with your experience and understanding of how one side of real estate works, what would your approach be to start addressing this particular issue?
Affordability, specifically.
Yes, housing affordability and accessibility as well.
Yeah. Yes, I can tell you from actually being a realtor, you see it from multiple angles. You see it from a buyer perspective, you see it from a seller perspective, and you see it from people who have been priced out of the market, your friends. I mean, I probably couldn't be able to afford the house that I have now that I bought 20 years ago in my own neighborhood at this point. So I know that housing affordability is an unbelievable problem all over California. not just in Sacramento, and to see friends who have a dream to buy a house not be able to do that. I can also tell you how insane it was over the pandemic with the low interest rates and people, coming from the Bay Area, for example, where they've been priced out of the market in the Bay Area. So they're coming to Sacramento, which is pricing Sacramentans out of the market. It's a nasty cycle. And I see myself as a facilitator to help in my position as a realtor to help people get that dream to own a house, to sell a house, whatever that is. And as a realtor, I don't have control over the market. I'll give you an example. I was trying to help a friend buy a house in Sacramento. This was probably mid 2021, maybe around the fall area. But we lost out to a house that someone paid $100,000 over asking. And you don't have control over that. As a realtor, I am here to protect my clients so that they can get what they want and ultimately feel safe in the transaction. So as a realtor, I don't feel that I have control over that. I think local government can definitely help with grants. There's a Dream for All coming that is for first-time buyers to be able to afford and that down payment. This is the second rollout of that, and I fully believe in it. I hope that this rollout is managed a lot better than the one that was done last year. But I think there are so many ways that local government can help with the down payments, whether it's grants, and ultimately help people get to that goal to own a house.
Okay. So as a follow-up, from what I understand, you mentioned grants and other sorts of aids to assist with for people to have homeownership, to have homeownership be accessible. So if I'm understanding correctly. On the other side, with housing and affordability, there's also been a homelessness crisis where the lack of accessibility and how unaffordable it's getting, people are losing their homes and becoming homeless. How would you plan, or if elected in council in office, how would you plan to reduce this in a way and also engage the community so that strategy can be more effective?
Yeah, I think that affordable housing and inclusionary housing has definitely been neglected in Sacramento for many, many years. And so is homelessness, for that matter. There have been years that our local government could have gotten on top of this and have done nothing. And I think that there should definitely be rules, laws with builders to absolutely include affordable inclusionary housing in their new projects. I know there has been some things in the work that are trying to make that a reality. And it's shocking to me that Sacramento has not had as many rules surrounding that. And my opponent, he's got a lot of backing with the Realtor Association, and they give him a lot of money. And I'm not your typical realtor. I don't believe in the ethics that surround the real estate world in the National Association of Realtors or the Sacramento Association of Realtors. I believe in tenant rights. I think that tenants need to be protected. Everyone deserves a safe place to live. And when I say safe, I mean something that works, a house that isn't falling down around them. And I think that there should be more protection with tenants with regard to that, and more potential fines or penalties for slumlords that don't take care of their properties or their tenants, for that matter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask, you talked a little about your living in Colonial Heights and the, I guess, underrepresentation of your community. So a question I have is, how do you plan to represent neighborhoods like yours that may feel overlooked or underrepresented in local government?
Well, coming from one, I can tell you exactly. For example, our park. Not as as we all know, not everyone can afford a country club membership, right? Our parks need to be safe for our children to play in Colonial Heights. And this also goes for Lawrence Park and the park in Colonial Village. Our bathrooms are old and decrepit and locked most of the time. I found out through the Parks Department that their budget barely covers just maintenance, let alone any improvements. There's no staff that is on the clock, so to speak, after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So sometimes our bathrooms, if there's an event, they have to open them so that they're, for example, we have a girls softball team that practices in our park. So, they need a bathroom. But, if just little children are coming to our park and don't have a bathroom to use, that's unbelievable to me. And if you have children or not, or if you just know children, sometimes you know that from the time they tell you they have to go to the bathroom to the time they actually go to the bathroom is a very short period of time. So it's not like, they can potentially run home. So one of those things, I'm a big park advocate. Considering Sacramento has 26 parks and such a small budget to maintain, it doesn't make sense to me that more money isn't given to our parks. So as far as our underrepresented areas, I can tell you that if I were elected, they would not be unrepresented. They would be listened to. I think our city council, in a lot of respects, have stopped hearing their constituents and are more listening to their big money special interest donors. And that's not how it should be. We are the ones who elect. We are the ones who need that representation to help our neighborhoods be safer places, be better places to live. And like I said, in my coalition, we've have over 60 members now who all wanted a bigger voice, or a voice, period. And we have created that and gotten so much done to make our neighborhood a better place. So, I can bring people together. I'm a good organizer. And like I said earlier, I'm about action. I want to see things happen. And if we aren't seeing things happening, we aren't seeing those results. And I think that is really something that people are tired of. We're just kind of tired of just talk and talk. Let's actually make Sacramento a better place versus the crisis it's in right now.
Thank you, Casey. Now, you touched base on the parks. Now, I'm curious, what's your vision for transportation and infrastructure in your district beyond the parks?
Mm-hmm. I think our rapid transit system, so we're a driving city, right? I think that more people drive than use our local transportation. I do think, especially in South Sacramento, that we need more rapid transit routes. We need more bus routes. And we need for our poor population to be able to afford and get to those places, because a lot of South Sacramento is also a food desert. We don't have great grocery stores like East Sacramento or Curtis Park. We have more discount grocery stores, and we also have people who can't necessarily make it to the stores we have. So I think definitely better bus routes are really important. More bus routes to really address our population that needs those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And another issue I wanted to touch on is climate change and addressing that, and what local initiatives do you propose for District 6 in combat of this climate change issue?
Love this question. So Eric Guerra is on the Air Resources Board. And that if you don't know anything about that, I mean, it's about clean air. It's about improving our air quality. It's about letting the public know what is going on with our air throughout the Sacramento area. And currently in South Sacramento, there is no federally regulated air monitor. And why that's important is because that is the only monitor that you can use in a court of law as evidence. And if we don't know the actual air quality in South Sacramento, we don't know what's going on and we can't address it. And if you're familiar with South Sacramento, it is where our most industry is located. So potentially the biggest polluters. And it is also where we have our thinnest tree canopy. So the trees in South Sacramento definitely are less, or it's sparse. There's just a very small tree canopy. So we need more trees. We need a federally regulated air monitor to protect our population, because poor quality air can lead to so many health issues. It also a dramatically shorter lifespan, birth defects, name it. Air is what we breathe. It's why we're alive. And if it's full of pollutants, then, and specifically because South Sacramento is where more of our poor population lives, how is that fair? How is that protecting our constituents? How is that protecting our people?
Thank
Okay.
you.
I know you like environmental questions. So did you have follow up to that before I double back to something else?
No, I think that you really touched on, you know, what you think you would do for the climate change issue, especially, you know, that's more apparent in South Sacramento due
Yes,
to the air
definitely.
quality. So I really appreciate that.
Well, Casey, you brought something up at the beginning, so I'm gonna double back because you were talking about the drug deals and the activities that were happening in a certain area. And one question that I wanted to go back to in regard to that, how do you plan to build trust? Because then between law enforcement and community members, so it's a like everybody in the community is tackling this issue together.
Mm-hmm. So how am I developing trust is the question.
Like, how do you plan? Yeah. How would you plan to develop that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I, as a white person, I have never felt in fear of my life being in front of a police officer, being followed by a police officer. I know that's my privilege. I know that that is not the case with a lot of our people of color. And ultimately, I think our police department needs better training. I think they need higher education. There's definitely a bias training that they also need to go through. I've been asked if I think the police department budget should be raised. No, I do not. I think that I think there's a lot of distrust with the police, and I don't know, to be quite honest, if that will be fixed or remedied anytime soon. I think still to this day, in fact, I recently heard that 80% of traffic stops with people of color did not result in a citation. In fact, Flo said that in one of the mayoral forums. So it makes you wonder, what are they doing with their time? I mean, from the outside, it looks like harassment. Ultimately, where is this going? Why are they stopping? You know? So I think that I think our police department has made some improvements, but I think honestly, there's a long way to go. And if you're familiar with Prop 47, they blame a lot of their inability to enforce the law as police officers on that, which we voted for that 10 years ago. And now all of a sudden it's an issue that they can't address crime. I think that also, going back a couple of years ago, talking about having a different department that handles mental health calls. I think that still not, I think it hasn't happened. I think it does need to happen. And I know it hasn't happened in our Sacramento Police Department because there are a lot of calls that do not require a police officer, requires potentially a mental health professional to address whatever's going on. So if that answers your question.
That is the beginning of it, and not gonna open that can of worms right now, Casey, like, because it's a whole discussion up in itself.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for putting that together and sharing that with us.
Yes, and while we're on that topic of, we've also talked about public safety and just like also the drug situation going on in your neighborhood itself. So one thing that is apparent in Sacramento in general, and I'm sure like in your district, is the youth being involved with this gun violence or drug related, violence. How would you plan to tackle gang, like preventing youth from getting into those, into the wrong path and to something better?
Yeah. That's that's really interesting you asked that. I was listening to an interview with Karen Bass, who's the mayor of LA, who I think is unbelievable. She's incredible, and she's actually really addressing the homeless issue in Los Angeles. And she said something that made absolute sense to me. We don't invest enough in our youth and in youth programs and involving our youth in ways that they feel useful. I think we definitely need more youth programs. What part of what was said was, gangs, they don't have a problem recruiting youth. It makes them feel, in a place that they belong, right? That makes sense to them. It's a new family in maybe a situation where they didn't feel they belonged somewhere. And I think that we do not invest in the long term in our youth. Like there's a lot of suppression, versus investing and a deterrent, having our youth be involved in a way that they feel wanted and accepted, and to not want to be involved in a gang situation. So I just thought that was really smart, because it's true. If children are in a home that might be broken, a single parent situation, they might be looking for a place to belong. And I think that our city needs to have more programs that children can get involved in that might be, leadership oriented, that might get them to a place where they feel more successful and more wanted, and ultimately grow up to potentially maybe even be a city council member, or president for that matter. I think there's just so much we could do to involve our youth more in Sacramento.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Well, Casey, I've been keeping track of time, and before we start closing, I want to ask you, can you please share with our audience and the community members why a vote for you is something that's important to you, and why they should vote for you, really? You have the floor for 1 to 2 minutes. Like, you can talk. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. First of all, it's been a pleasure talking with both of you. Like I said at the beginning, I never thought that I would be running for anything in my life. And but then I also didn't think I'd ever be a realtor. And here I am 10 years later. But this just makes sense for me. And, I'm a grassroots campaign. I do not take money from any special interest groups. All of my money I've raised has been from friends, family members, neighbors, and supporters. I'm not going to work for corporations. I'm not going to work for charter schools or PACs. basically the people need a voice and not someone who works for large donations. I'm not a career politician. I don't have a higher aspiration for a political office. I think that the absolute failings of our current local government, it really is what spurred me to be a part of the solution. I think Sacramentans are done with career politicians. I think we're looking for someone who wants to listen to the people and answers their phone. We've had enough inaction. And as I said earlier, I'm about action. We're done with ineptitude. We're done with not seeing improvements in our city. And we need to come together to return Sacramento to its former glory. And I want to be, a part of that. And, Sacramento is in crisis. And, I've lived here for 23 years and I've never seen it in the situation. I've never seen us in this situation before. And it's not going to get any better with the snail pace that our current city council is working. Opening 240 bed shelter in North Sacramento is not enough to address our 10,000 homeless. Well, I'm not sure what the most recent PIT count is, but having 10,000 homeless people on our streets and then having 2,400 people on the shelter wait list is not good enough. It's just not. We need to do better for Sacramento. We need to do better for all of our people, housed, unhoused. And I think Sacramento is ready for change. I think they're ready for fresh ideas, new blood, new faces in city council, people who have that drive to make Sacramento, a better place. And a vote for me brings back, I think, we've lost some trust in our local officials, especially of late. And a vote for me means that transparency will come back, accountability will come back. There's been enough finger pointing, between the county and the city about who's doing what or not doing what. And you know what? We're done with that. We're done with that. Like, let's just come together and help our population, help the community, help the people. We're just done sitting around and listening. And I don't know if you all go to city council meetings, but they're basically a circus these days. And I don't know how they get things done, but ultimately a vote for me is a vote for action and immediate work. I am ready to get going on this. And I want to help all of the people return Sacramento back to its former glory. I think we're ready for that. And I'm ready to do that.
Thank you very much, Casey. I really appreciate you taking the time to, sit here with us and tell us about why the people should vote for you and why you should represent District 6. To our audience as well, we thank you for, getting to know the candidates so you can make a well-educated decision based on what their values are.
And I want to remind everybody, please vote on election day. And if you have questions for your candidates, if you have questions for Casey, go to her profile, like engage, because that's the point of this process of being civically engaged. You have to talk to your electoral candidates and find out if their values align with yours. But with that said, thank you so much, Casey, for sitting down with us today so we can do this. And I hope you have an amazing evening.
Thank you so much. And remember, it's March 5th. It's coming up quick. And I know so many people pay attention to the federal government and what's going on there, but city council affects your daily life.
Yes, indeed.
Not Washington, D.C. Pay attention to your council members.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.